I know a lot of people who are in that age group who came up on quote unquote Christian television, and these personalities that they see, they are very devastated by some of the things that have come out in the secret recordings and things of that nature. So stay with me to the end. I want to share something that I did years ago that helped me, and I think it'll help you too. But again, it's up to you if you do it, okay? So here's how we're going to do this. In part one of our conversation, I want to just share my thoughts and observations about the marriage of Joni and Doug, all the things that have come to the light about that. And then on part two, I'm going to share my personal thoughts and observations on the allegations. Okay, and that's what we have to call them because none of us were there. The allegations that her son Jonathan, his wife Susie, are making, alleging that a family member sexually abused their daughter, and that when they brought that information to Joni and her husband Marcus, who was alive at the time, Joni and Marcus basically took up for the alleged abuser and basically said this never happened, you guys are making it up. So that's a whole lot that we need to go into, so I don't want to try to combine these two conversations, okay? All right, y'all ready? Let's go. Here we go. This is the biggest mess ever. I haven't watched Daystar or any other Christian television in probably close to 20 years, and that's something we'll talk about near the end that I was sharing with you guys. So I wasn't aware that this has happened because I don't follow these people, none of them. None of the people that show up on these quote-unquote Christian networks. I don't listen to him, or I don't even know who the latest person is, or what scheme, the latest scheme they're running. So I had to do a lot of research on this marriage. I wasn't even aware that she had gotten married again. I knew he had died, Marcus, but I didn't know that she had gotten remarried. But I understand where Joni is. Joni, to me, because I covered the story of Shirley Strawberry, radio host, this is another Shirley Strawberry, and because I'm a woman, and I too have been lonely in my life, I understand. Now, understanding is not the same as agreeing with what a person is doing. It's just simply understanding as a human, in particular as a woman, you make some really dumb decisions out of loneliness because loneliness impedes our ability to make good decisions. Loneliness obscures good judgment, and everybody around you could be telling you, he's no good, and you're just like, honey, he's meeting the needs I have, the needs I may have had for decades in her case. And so I'm willing to go into the fire. I know I'm going to come out burned. I'm going to pray that it's not going to be as bad as maybe it could be. That is where a lot of women have made mistakes. And so I don't want you to hear that I'm making excuses. You see, there's a difference. I'm telling you I understand why, despite everything I'm going to tell you, the lady married the man anyway. I was truly surprised at how this marriage came about. I was even more surprised at reading the letter from Julie Boggs, Boggs, for anyone who wants to Google Julie Boggs' letter, because maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. You can read it for yourself. I was really surprised at reading that letter from Julie Boggs because Julie had actually counseled Doug and his wife Lisa prior to Doug divorcing Lisa. And in this letter, she refers to Doug as being a wolf in sheep's clothing. She also says that she tried to share this information with Joni because she and Joni have been friends at one point. And there was a time when Joni used to listen to her. And of course, she has been on Daystar, according to her letter, for a long time. And when she began to share these concerns that she knew because she had counseled Doug and his wife, and she says in this letter, I knew what led to their divorce, and I kept trying to share things about him that he basically, I'm paraphrasing her, he's no good, Joni. He's no good, Joni. And Joni made excuses and just said, well, this, that, and something else. And then Julie says in this letter, y'all, she says, Joni even told me something basically sexual that Doug had, a sexual comment he had made about Joni to Joni. And she said, I knew Joni. She said there was a time when she would have found that so offensive, but she thought it was funny what he said. And Julie said, she said, the lady I used to know, she said this was a completely different woman than I had talked to and known for many, many years. And she said, I'm writing this letter to warn you guys that you guys need to get together and have some sort of intervention with your mom. And she even says in this letter, I will be willing to come and help and kind of help you guys navigate this because I know them both. And then Julie says in this letter, as soon as Joni was able to get Jimmy Evans to co-sign this relationship, she stopped listening to all wise counsel. And Julie says, Jimmy is not familiar with what really happened between Doug and Lisa. I am. I was also shocked to learn that while Doug had been divorced for many months, he never told his clients that Doug kept doing marriage and sex therapy counseling, telling his clients he was still married and that he was happily married, y'all. One couple who paid him $7,500 for just 1 week of counseling, they've actually spoken out, and they said they feel deceived. They feel he's a fraud because they said and they weren't the only ones to speak out, by the way, but that was like the greatest amount I heard. Like, what? 1 week of therapy is $7,500 with this guy? And they were saying because he is who he is, he charged more than maybe the regular therapist or whomever at his office there. But they said, he specifically said to them, these principles are working in my marriage. He presented himself as a happily married therapist when he had been divorced at that point by 9 months, and nobody knew. And he was about to announce his engagement. I was also really, really surprised to know that Doug took and passed a polygraph to prove that abuse nor adultery led to his divorce with Lisa. I was even more surprised to find out that Doug signed a prenup that Joni was advised to give him by Jimmy Evans. Listen, these things laid me out flat, but the biggest revelation for me was how fast Doug moved in as soon as Marcus Lamb died. And I was even more surprised that Joni actually believes this man loves her. For those of you who don't know, let me share with you how fast Doug moved. So, Doug had been married to his wife Lisa for 30 years. As I said, and as you're aware, probably his specialty is marriage and sex therapy. Marcus Lamb dies of complications. I want you to listen to these dates. Marcus Lamb dies of complications of COVID-19 in November of 2021. 2 months later, after his death in January of 2022, Doug sends his wife Lisa divorce papers, and then he immediately starts dating Joni Lamb. We know that he dated her immediately because Joni says they dated for 1 year prior to marrying on that secret audio her son Jonathan was recording when Joni and Jimmy were trying to force them into submission. And Doug and Joni got married, y'all, on June 10th, 2023. Marcus wasn't even cold yet, as they say, before they started dating. Joni was the rich widow who owned the largest Christian TV network in the world. Doug moved quickly before any other man could step in. Listen, Joni was still grieving the death of her husband when she started dating this man. That's when they actually began seeing each other romantically. Because either these two people were carrying on some sort of an affair, or maybe it wasn't a full-blown affair, an emotional relationship maybe, while Marcus was still alive. Or Doug truly is the bounty hunter he appears to be. The fact that everybody, except for Jimmy Evans and a few others who have, of course, interest in Daystar themselves, they're on the board. There were so many people that tried to warn Joni and said, he's a fraud. No, this is wrong. Give it some time. Don't move so fast. The fact that all of her children, not just Jonathan, were against this marriage. They felt like this was too soon, that this, like before they knew it, this man had engaged their mom. And of course, her children's problem with this marriage is not just how quickly this all came about shortly after their dad's death. 2 months later, right? But they're also concerned, and rightly so, that Doug really didn't have any biblical grounds to divorce his wife, Lisa. Doug himself has preached for decades, according to everything I saw and these people have said, that there are only a few reasons that Christians should divorce, and those reasons are biblical reasons. But then he passed a polygraph saying none of those biblical reasons apply to his own divorce. So obviously, of course, like most people, he applies a different set of rules to himself than he would be to someone who's paying him for therapy, or when he's on a TV program trying to sell his books, his conferences, and whatever. Matter of fact, Joni and her husband Doug are about to speak at a marriage conference if they haven't done it already. It's just crazy. So what are my thoughts here? Well, Joni, as I was saying earlier, I understand. I do. And I don't know if men can understand something about us as women. It's one thing to be lonely when you're single. It's a whole nother type of loneliness when you're lonely but you're married. You're in the house with someone, you're living together. That's a whole different animal. As women, and I'm speaking to men, not to other women, because you're a woman, you know this. If you're an emotionally healthy woman who's only attracted to men, as women, we were made for men. That's the bottom line. Look at your body, look at it all. We were made for men. We want a man, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a healthy, natural desire. Joni Lamb had been in a loveless, sexless marriage for a few decades. I think her loneliness was so deep. And then you couple that with the fact that her husband had just died. Even though they were not in love, on the secret recording that Jonathan made during that meeting, which went on, seemed to me forever. I know it was 90 minutes, but I was like, my God, when is this thing going to end? I listened to the whole thing, as some of you did. Remember, Joni mentioned in that secret recording that Susie had gone around telling people something she had told her in private, which was that her marriage to Marcus was just about Daystar, that she did not love Marcus anymore. They weren't in love with each other. It was business. But Doug, she's in love with Doug. This is a different kind of marriage, she was telling Susie. And Susie, of course, denied telling anybody that. But of course, she probably did. Listen, Susie is young. She's a young girl. And listen, when you're young, you make a lot of mistakes. And when you're frustrated and you have, you want someone to talk to, you may wind up, revealing things that you shouldn't tell people. So when I look at Joni Lamb, I can see a woman that I cannot necessarily identify with, but I can understand what made her so vulnerable to a Doug. And if it wasn't a Doug, it would have been another man. As a woman, not only were we created for men and we desire a man, we also need the touch of a man. We want to be loved. We want to be told we're pretty. That's why in Julie Bogs' letter she was saying, Joni was so flattered by this sexual comment, whatever it was, and God only knows what it was, because Julie said there was a time when she would have been offended if a man would have said something like that to her. Well, honey, when you haven't had any love, when you haven't had any touches from a man that's attractive, when a man hasn't found you attractive like that in years, your own husband, was cheating on you for 7 years, of course she thought it was flattering, because she's in a deficit when it comes to attention, love, sex. There's too many deficits. So she wasn't going to listen to nobody. Her own needs are way louder than anything anyone can say. Just like Shirley Strawberry's. I think the world has sold women a bag of goods. That being successful, having your own money, driving the best cars, carrying the best handbags, wearing the best shoes, living in a gated community, that's going to fill your needs as a woman, but those things don't do it. You better talk to women who are successful. They'll tell you this. You can't hug your shoes. You can't hug the dollar bills. You can't hug the gated community. You can't be told you're pretty by the new St. John or whatever the latest, Louis Vuitton bag. Those things don't talk. They don't feel. They don't do anything. They're material things. And so that's one of the reasons why you hear men who are players, who are quote-unquote reformed players. They used to say, I've watched some of these men over the years. They've said, the easiest women to manipulate were the ones who were highly successful and highly educated and had a lot of money, because they were the loneliest. And so when a woman has walked around like Joni has, and again, remember, she was married, so that was a whole different kind of loneliness, right? She wasn't the single woman who was lonely. She was the married woman who was lonely, who had to come out in front of these cameras every day and pretend like we got something going on here that ain't. That's why it reminded me so much of Jan and Paul Crouch. They were just business partners. Their relationship turned from a marriage to a business partnership. And Jan was out there kissing the guy who used to play Jesus right there in front of camera. She just totally stopped caring. She began to look weird. The pink hair, the extremely long fake eyelashes, the clown type makeup. Everyone could see what she was turning into but herself. Because the loneliness had brought her to a place of just being deceived. That's what's happening with Joni Lamb, guys. The best thing to do for people who love this woman is, because she's got a will. We've talked about this a lot. You can't overturn a person's will through your prayers. It don't work that way. God doesn't allow that. They have a free will. God respects it, and you're going to have to, not you, not my listener, you, I'm speaking of the proverbial you, The end of it, her children, her, Julie, all of her real friends, they have to just back up now, and they have to just be willing to be there when the heartbreak comes, because it's coming. It's coming. Because Doug ain't no good. Just the way he moved shows he's no good. Even if we, like Julie Bogs, don't know the details of his marriage, the way he swooped in, the way he was willing to divorce 30 years, and he didn't care that he had spent 30 plus years telling the world, don't divorce, blah, 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 made money, millions of dollars off of it. Because see, none of that is compared to the Daystar, the pot of gold. Now, we heard on that secret recording about some of the details in the prenup, that he's not allowed to touch her money, that he's not allowed to be in any position at Daystar. Doug's not worried about that. You want to know why he signed it? He's like all these people we watch on these TV shows, these crime shows, who swooped in on the rich widow. He knows that as he keeps working on her, she's going to, at some point, null and void that prenup. But he knows it's going to take some time. So he went and signed all of it. Oh, I don't need her money. Jimmy said he told him, I got my own money, blah, blah, blah. But he already knows. Because remember, she came into this relationship. What made her vulnerable in the first place was years of deficits. That's why I like to encourage women. Don't be fooled. If you are an emotionally healthy woman, only attracted to men, you do need a man. Not need in the sense like the world says it, like he's going to validate you. See, that's toxic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about healthy love, healthy attention from a man that you're attracted to and who's attracted to you. As a woman, when you go years without those things, and as women, we have the ability to go years without sex. God made us that way because, remember, we were the ones to birth the children, and if the men were off to war, they got killed, well, honey, we're going to have to take care of these kids. So we don't have this burning need for sex day in and day out like some men do, or like men do as a whole. We're not built that way, right? Because men are built to plant their seed, to multiply, because, well, they could get killed at any moment. I mean, this was the original, thing going on. Well, those things are still in our DNA. But at the end of the day, women who think their handbags, their education, their 15,000 degrees, that stuff is going to fill the needs you have as a woman, a fully alive woman, they're always in for a rude awakening. And as some of these reformed players who probably aren't reformed say, those women were the easiest for them to get to because they had been lonely for so long. And see, you can be a really smart and intelligent woman and say, oh, I know no man could ever no man could ever do that to me. I'm just too smart for it. I'm sure Joni thought that, and Shirley Strawberry did too. But no, just let one roll up on you who you're really attracted to, who you really like. You like the kind of man he is. You see that then a whole nother thing starts working. So even though I know she's going to get hurt, everybody around her knows she's going to get hurt. That's what it's going to take, because talking is not going to do anything. Her needs are too deep. They've gone on for too long. This man came in. And what also really was interesting to me is that he had actually counseled she and Marcus. So he knows really what her needs are and how they struggled in their sex life because of the affair and all those things. He's heard all that stuff. So you have to think of it. She saw him as a friend too. So this is someone you'd already let your guard down with, you and your husband. Like she said in that secret recording, Marcus loved Doug. So I'm sure that, having already had a relationship, we suppose that was just business. We don't know. They may have, again, had some sort of emotional something going on. The fact that she didn't even see how fast he moved in on her after her husband died, after that he was willing to throw away 30 years of his marriage. Now, all his kids are grown, like all her kids are grown. She couldn't see any of that. And that's how any woman is, whether she's black, whether she's white, whether she is Hispanic, whether she's Pakistani, whether she's Samoan, honey. When you allow loneliness to go on in your life for so long, with your needs as a woman not being met, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation. And your intellect, because Joni's a smart woman, your intellect ain't gonna do nothing. When you're made for something, you're made for it. And when the right one, or who you think is the right one, comes along, you're going to be vulnerable to that, especially if you have a deficit of needs that have gone on for an extremely long time. So she's just going to have to get hurt. I mean, and she is. She is going to get hurt. As Julie put in that letter, he's going to destroy Daystar. But that's what it's going to take. And then she'll see what it really is. She will wake up, so to speak, out of the sleep, and she'll realize what a fool she's been. And like other women who've been through these things, she will ask God to forgive her, and she'll try to rebuild whatever's left of whatever he hadn't taken or destroyed or tore up. And she'll repair her relationship with her children, and Daystar will be no more. That's what it is. That's what's going to happen here. We know that because history repeats itself, and there have been tons of women who've been through this, be they rich people like Joni on TV who everybody knows, or people like me and you, women like me and you who, I don't know, wherever you live. I mean, it's just the nature of a woman. It's just the nature of a woman. Talking ain't going to do no good. Laying it all out on the table and saying, look at this and look at that, look at how he divorced us, look at all this. She's going to go just like that lady said she told her. She made every excuse for him that she could come up with. And then eventually she just stopped listening to her. She stopped talking to her. She stopped taking her calls. Every woman. So now let's end with that spiritual detox. Well, here's the deal. I personally believe that Christian television started off, I think, with good motives and intentions, and it has become something other than that. It's become a money-making venture. It has become a business. It's very difficult to keep God in the center of something when it's a business. I was talking with someone a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about a particular church in our area, and I was sharing with this person that, it's very difficult to keep God in the center of your ministry when all of your monthly bills for that totals up to over $300,000. Well, honey, that's why church should have never become a business. Never. And well, with this latest Trump stuff, it probably will no longer be a business, because remember, the alleged thing is if you're a 501(c) and you basically don't, convey and do what he wants you to do, your status will be ripped. Your 501, your status of a nonprofit will be ripped. And it's not just for people speaking out on behalf of Palestinians. It's going to be for any organization that criticizes or doesn't go along with the status quo that they have said that he is wanting. So at the end of the day, as I get ready to let you go, I just would encourage every young Christian listening to me, even those of us who've been walking with the Lord for some time, detox yourself from all of that. If you feel like you can't go a year, maybe give yourself 3 months. For the next 3 months, don't watch any Christian TV. Don't listen to any of these Christian people, Christian pastors, teachers, whoever it is on YouTube. Don't listen to them on the radio. Just do a total detox. Don't pull out any of their books. Totally detox from it. The only thing that you should take in during this 3 months, if you want to just start with 3 months, is your own Bible, your own time with God, your own local church. And if you're not a part of a local church, you ought to be a part of a local church. Let me tell you something. I used to be a volunteer for TBN and their prayer center. Let me tell you what happens, honey. So don't think you're special. And the reason I'm speaking it so plain and telling you so plain is I want you to feel it so plain. When they call in and you answer the phone, honey, you're trying to get them off the phone and go to your next call. You may take 200 calls, prayer calls, in 5 hours. And guess what? You don't remember any of the people, because it's just one call after the other after other. So when you pick up that phone and they talk to you, honey, you're just a number. You're just a voice. It's nothing personal. They don't know you. They don't care about your problems either. See, that's the truth that you need to know. It's like you call the customer service line at Walmart. They don't care about you. They just want to know, what is it? What do you want? Okay, now what's your information, so they can send you some stuff in the mail. That's what Christian TV does, so they can send you things in the mail and get you to send your money in. And then they go on to the next call. It's just like being in a customer service center. That's what the prayer centers are. That's what they've become. But see, when you have a real church and something's really going on in your life, you can go to the leadership there, people that actually know you. Well, I've been so hurt. We've all been hurt by a whole bunch of things. Get over it and get yourself connected to a local church in your area. You may live in LA. You shouldn't be connected to some church in Washington, D.C. Because if something happens and you're in the hospital, honey, they not fly from D.C. to come see you. You need to make local relationships And yes, it's very difficult when you've been hurt to step out on faith and trust again, but that's what it takes. That's just the bottom line. All of us have to walk that way. You're not different, neither am I. All of us have to learn to open ourselves up, let people know us and us know them. That's a part of it. That's a part of the human experience. So your Bible, your own time with God, your local church, that's it. See if you can do that for 3 months without all this other stuff. Keep a journal for the 3 months and see what kind of things happen to you. When you see, you'll begin to see what's been going on with you. You'll begin to see, wait a minute, anytime I feel like I need a word, I've trained myself unintentionally to go to these complete strangers. You know, anybody you're watching or listening to is a complete stranger. That's why I feel like a lot of these people who found out what went on with Doug, they were so hurt because they felt like they knew him. You know, sometimes I have people on YouTube, they'll come in the comment section, they'll say, "Why can't I see you? What are you hiding for? What's your real name? Who are you?" Now, mind you, this is all in the comment section, but people have become, social media has trained all of us to become intellectually lazy. Honey, we don't want to look for something ourselves. It's just the way we all are. I'm trying to break myself from it just like the next person. But anywho, even though I have been on camera many times, they just haven't seen me. They haven't seen me. And a lot of my listeners that have been on the internet, y'all, for 6 years, they know my name. But because I had some incidents that happened where people breached the safety because people don't respect boundaries. Right? They don't respect boundaries. I not only had to stop coming on camera and stop giving my name out, we almost had to call the police on one guy, right? Because he was trying to come to the house. You see, people, they hear you, they see you, and they begin to think they know you. You're their friend, you know, and you're a complete stranger. You don't know them, and they don't know you either. And so I had my business email up. It even got so bad I had to remove that. You want to know why? Because people are sending you all kinds of emails. I got this kind of a problem. Mind you, or if they don't like something you said, they'd leave a comment, and then they'd email you this long, drawn-out email because people don't have boundaries. So I say to people, just like I can't see you, and I don't know your name, it shouldn't bother you that you can't see me, nor do you know my name. It shouldn't bother you because the people you can see, the people's names you actually know, you don't know them either. You just think you know. We are all like that. It's a level of comfort you develop with people as you watch them and listen to them. But all of us have to remind ourselves, we don't know that person. That's why when people found out all this stuff about Doug, they were shocked. They said, "I've been watching him for years. I knew him." No, you never knew him. You just could see his face and you could hear his voice and you got to see aspects of his personality, but you never knew him. So seeing someone or knowing their name doesn't mean anything. You're still not going to know that person. And sometimes I would say to people, this is when I was making the transition from videos to podcasts, I would say to them, why don't you just ask yourself, why do you feel like you need to see me? Don't ask me, ask yourself that. Why do you feel like you need to know my name? Like, what are those two things going to do for you in terms of what you're hearing me say? You got to take the internet for what it was really intended to be in terms of these things like this, social media. It's entertainment. It's infotainment. You turn it on, you give a like or a dislike and a comment, and then you go on about your real life with your real friends. I used to have people email me, "You're my friend." And I'm like, I wouldn't respond because I don't know them. See, this is what I'm saying. People have allowed, some of us have allowed social media to make us feel like we have real connections with complete strangers, and we don't. Oh yes, sometimes connections can come from the internet. That's true, but that's like anything. Like a real connection can come from Walmart. But the internet should always be kept in its place. It's just a place where we go to get entertainment or information, and then we turn it off, we click it off, and we go live our real lives. I tell my young listeners, make real relationships with people in your real lives. Those are the only people that care about you. There's the only people that are going to know you. When you're in the hospital, they're the only people that are going to come see you. Not the strangers you've been watching or listening to, whether you can see their face or know their name or not. They're not coming to your rescue or aid. They don't know you. It's not a real relationship. And so you can't build a whole life saying, "Oh, I got 1,000 friends on Facebook." That means you have no friends, really. "Oh, I have 80,000 followers," but you don't know them and they don't know you either. We talked about this for those of you who don't know, with Amanda Seales. Amanda Seales, a comedian, actress, and all these things. She's done a lot. She's highly accomplished, but she can't get along with anybody. She doesn't have any real friends. You see? And she would come online and talk to her millions of followers and say, if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't feel like nothing. What? That's not healthy. That's twisted. That's backwards. So at the end of the day, Joni's going to get hurt. Most, not all, but most people think that, and I'm one of those people. But I also understand where she is to a certain degree, and I will tell you it's just going to take hurt because she's not going to listen to anybody. Her needs have gone on for too long. They're too deep, and he is meeting those needs. And that's all she can see right now. That's all she can hear. That's all she can feel. I'm happy for the first time in years. I don't feel so lonely for the first time in years. I'm sure that they are having a very nice sex life as well, because she has not, she's been in a sexless, loveless marriage for a long time. I'm sure all of those things are opening up. I think she's 60 plus now. You think about so many years spent in a loveless, sexless marriage. I'm sure she feels alive right now. She feels all these things that she hasn't felt in years. She may feel like, oh my God, I'm beginning to live again. So honey, ain't nothing nobody who loves her is going to say. Even God is not going to be able to get through to Joni. Even though she said on that secret recording, she said, because Jonathan said to her, Mom, if God were to come down and tell you that the marriage between you and Doug is wrong, would you listen? She said, oh yes. No, she wouldn't. Because if she's not listening to her friends, the people that have known her for decades, the people who have been there for her, she wouldn't listen to God either. It's almost like being thirsty for decades and then you get your first drink of water. You want more and more and more and more and more. That's kind of where she is right now. Because she said on that secret recording that Jonathan, as the vice president, he also was on he's the only other person's name is on all her bank accounts. She said, y'all heard that recording. She said, shout out to the Julie Roy's report. You can find all this stuff there. She said, right now he could steal all my money if he wanted to. Well, now that he's been fired as vice president, I wonder whose name is on there. Probably just hers right now, but trust, Doug is working his way to it. And as long as he keeps meeting her needs and giving her the things she hasn't had in years, the feelings she hasn't had in years, the quote-unquote love and attention she hasn't had in years, eventually he'll work his way into the prenup being nulled and void and the name on the bank account, or at least access to it by having passwords, etc., etc. All the guardrails that Jimmy Evans, quote unquote, has set up, she on her own is going to knock all those down. Why? Because he's going to convince her, not through words, but through his actions, that I'm really here for you, I really love you, this is going to be a forever love, blah, blah, blah. And so she's going to feel, I don't need those things anymore. He's proven it to me. And then that's when he's going to go in for the kill, so to speak. And then she'll be left devastated, but then she'll know. She'll know. So unfortunately, guys, this is what we're watching. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you feel comfortable, drop down there in comments. Let those who are listening know your thoughts about the story. And we'll be back together on part 2. Have a good one.